a seat down there if you don't mind. So what kind of business do you run?
I came up with a little gear idea.
Oh, nice.
Weapons retention device. So.
Oh, cool. For just slinging it, or what exactly does it do?
Yeah, pretty much just attaching, your gun to the side of your body armor for.
Gotcha.
Sledging, climbing ladders.
Yeah.
Doing all that.
My sling that I have on mine, on my retention on my rifle, I absolutely hate it. It's just one of the typical bungee ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I hate bungee. That's where it came from.
Gotcha.
So.
You have your cat card on you by any chance?
Yeah.
Who are you? Which team are you assigned to right now?
Team 7.
You are.
Yep.
It's January 5th, 1990, date of birth. Is that correct?
Yep.
And what's your rate right now? SO
1.
Okay. Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yep.
Security clearance, let me guess, TS/SCI?
Just secret right now. TS is pending.
Okay. Last word, your social? just gonna ask you to go through your story. I mean, tell me, you know what we're, obviously you're talking about, who we're here to talk about. I think I can just get you to tell your story and then we'll clarify some things. I wanna know how much you know, and then Seth's gonna be taking some notes. I'm gonna just kind of listen and then follow up some questions. I guarantee he's gonna go back through and you're gonna make sure we've got everything correct, make sure we've got it all organized. So if you don't mind, man, I'm gonna crack this open, but just tell me.
All right. So I guess probably the big incident that everyone's talking about is the prisoner issue.
Okay.
I guess we would probably start there. We were, I believe it was a grain silo, maybe not a grain silo. It was a very prominent building. I'm not sure exactly the coordinates or grid on that, but that's where we were. That day we were on the Flot because they were getting ready to push an offensive on the west side, and there was kind of this big rural area before the kind of the city line started. So we were on the Flot that morning, like we were right there, and that was approved. That wasn't always the case. You know, I shouldn't say, I don't know what percentage of the time. Very, very often, you know, guys would turn off their stuff of where we were, and we would be in positions where we weren't supposed to be. That day was, you know, unique in the fact that they knew right where we were. So I was on the mortar team that day, and at some point, you know, a normal happening was that ERD and civilians would get injured, and they would bring them to us.
Okay.
We would treat ERD and civilians as we could. Sometimes it just didn't, you know, make sense tactically to pull bodies off of positions, but a lot of times we would. And so they said, hey, we got a ERD guy who's injured, and I was standing right next to Jake and Colonel LaBosse. Colonel LaBosse was our liaison.
Okay.
And they said, hey, we got an injured ERD guy, will you guys help him? And their response was, yeah, we're gonna help him. I think it was TC was the medic that was called and said, hey, TC, will you come, you know, work on this guy? They pull up, and they, at some point, you know, Jake said, no, never mind, TC, it's an ISIS dude. It's not ERD. And, you know, that was like, holy shit, you know, we're gonna see an ISIS dude like in the face, you know, this far away. You know, and I was curious. I wanted to look into, you know, his eyes this close and see what, you know, what he was. We had lived close to them at our old place. There was a Iraqi intelligence cell where they would, you know, interrogate guys. So we would see him every now and again, but to see him like, you know, face to face, man to man, like I wanted to.
Right off the battlefield, yeah. I mean, okay.
Yeah. So it was definitely like, wow, this is gonna be like a big deal, you know, or, you know, a significant occurrence if nothing else. Eddie came over the radio and said, no one touch him, he's all mine. And at that point, you know, they brought the guy in. He was on the front of a Humvee on a stretcher. And he didn't look like he was doing very well. The injuries that I noticed he had was a leg injury. And they were like throwing water on his face, you know, trying to kind of revive him a little bit. They sat him down, and, you know, it was super chaotic too. At this point, there's probably 15 or 20 ERD personnel, you know, circling around, and, you know, the situation is degrading. You know, this is ISIS guys aren't stupid. They're really good at they're decently good at what they do. And, taking advantage of a situation like this would, definitely be something they would do. Anyways, back to the story. So they pull this guy on the ground, and he can hardly talk, but he is talking, and General Boss goes up and grabs him by the hand and kneels down next to him and starts talking to him in Arabic, and he's translating as he's talking to him, and this guy says, through the General Boss translation, he says he's a ISIS fighter with the 14th Battalion. There was something like, I don't know the exact numbers on these, I forget the exact numbers, but it was there was 20 guys there, 10 of them were killed 10 or 15 were killed in the airstrike, and 5 got away. And then that was kind of it. General Boss was like, all right, we got 15 of them. And that's what, it seemed like his, purpose was kind of fulfilled. He was done, tactically questioning him. From there, Eddie showed up. There was Jake was there. I believe Craig had showed up at that point. I think Tom McNeil was there. And the situation was, like I said, there was ERD all over the place. Guys have their camera phones out, or taking selfies, or there was a ton of bodies there. I really didn't have a purpose, and our security posture was lacking, and so at that point, I removed myself and went to the mortar pit. And Dalton must have left. I don't know if Dalton actually came up in that initial bringing. Me and him were working the mortar tube. He may have been at the mortar tube the whole time. When I went back, he was there. And from there we kind of we're just processing what was going on, taking up the mortar team's job is to kind of keep keep somewhat of eyes and ears out, have a drone out, have a Puma out, and be able to defend against stuff. At some point, I went back to the RG that was parked right there to get batteries for the drone. We were going to launch the drone and to continue mortar operations. And Craig came up to me and was like, "All right, this is it. This whole situation is fucked. Get back to the mortar tube, or break down the mortar tube. We need to get out of here." And so I just went back to the mortar tube and then, broke it down, put it in the truck. And from there, I'm not sure the exact happenings. At some point, Craig came up to me and told me that Eddie had killed this guy by stabbing him. And stuff. I don't know if I'm a key witness on this, but I'm assuming NCIS is gonna pull everything's probably subpoena Eddie's phone. There's probably significant evidence there.
Why do you say that?
People were, after this whole thing, I think photographs were taken, and at one point it was hey, we're taking a group picture, get in this fucking picture. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna get, at first I was just kind of act like I didn't hear it, and it was like, no, get in this fucking picture. And I was like, just like that, and it was like, dude, come on, get in the fucking picture. And I was like, I'm not getting in the fucking picture.
Okay.
And so if that, you know, sheds any light on, you know, people being there that, you know, against their will, and, you know, there was 100% pressure to do that.
I might be off base here, but I want to stop you just for a quick second and let you know, if you're worried about things like that, if you're worried about getting in trouble, anything like that, being part of that picture, I'm just trying to reassure you. I mean, if I had suspected you had done anything incorrectly, if you had done anything illegal, anything criminal, what I would have had to do before we start questioning is review your 31 Bravo rights, which is similar to Miranda. This time, I have absolutely no reason to think you guys have done anything wrong. I don't think that being in that photograph, especially the fact that multiple people are saying it was kind of a forced photograph that people didn't want to be a part of, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not criminal in nature. That's not something that you're, in my opinion, would receive any punishment for, or you didn't do anything wrong as far as that's concerned. I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
Well, I feel guilty because I wasn't in the picture, because I said, like, that was my hard line. I was like, fuck no, I'm not getting in that picture. But I wanted to make sure that, you know, that pressure was expressed and it was there. And that's, you know, because there was, you know, people in the picture that, you know, weren't supportive of what happened.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So.
So keep telling me what happened with this incident, and we'll go through them. I'll give you some follow-up questions, and then and then we'll go on to other stuff too.
So from there, we were there for like 30 minutes. The SOTF wouldn't approve us to RTB. There was some, you know, for whatever reason, sometimes we had to stay out there. Sometimes it could be because the Marine counterparts were out there still, and they wanted a security, you know, QRF.
Yeah.
So we stayed out there for a while. And yeah, I just, you know, it was weird. All the Iraqi guys came in, you know, took pictures with this guy, and you know, that carried on for a while, and then we went back home. Once we were back home, now that I'm about to say this, I don't know if it was that day or if it was the next day. I'm not 100% on that. Eddie and Jake and the leadership had to go off to a meeting, and Craig called a meeting with everyone to basically say, hey, this, you know, one, that was wrong what happened. That is not how we do business. That is completely fucked up. If this ever happens again, if we ever have a situation where, you know, an injured ISIS guy is brought to us, anyone who sees it, take him away. Push him, or, you know, don't take him away, shoo him off. Tell him, get out of here. You know, distance ourselves as much as possible from this. We have no business doing this. This isn't even our war. This is their country. We didn't handle any of the, you know, serious, like, you know, questioning of these guys, anything. That was all the Iraqis. And they, you know, they were like, you know, they took their job actually very seriously. And when we were next door to them, we would want to, you know, see these ISIS guys. And they were like, no, we want to, you know, preserve them for Baghdad. You know, we don't want any outside photography. We don't want anything. So they were taking their job serious.
Okay.
And so basically in this meeting, Craig said, you know, if this ever happens again, we're not going to deal with this. We'll push them away. That's our defense. In the middle of this meeting, Eddie walks in, at which point there's certain people who are like, hey, let's not throw around the word war crimes. And it's like, well, that's what, you know, we're going to call a spade here. But right as that is being said, Eddie walks in, and, you know, we're having a meeting, and it's pretty obvious what we're talking. Or, you know, everyone just goes blank when he walks in. It just kind of goes about their business, and the meeting kind of disperses. So Eddie called in all of us, senior E6s, into our room, and he said, he basically knew. He's like, yeah, so, you know, if you guys aren't in support of this, like, next time it happens, I'll just go do this far away from where you guys don't have to watch what happens, or be a part of it, or, you know, you can have plausible deniability. He said, on past deployments, you know, we've done that. We've killed people who weren't even bad. We just killed people the same way. And this dude was an ISIS dude, so there was nothing wrong with what happened.
He completely acknowledged that he killed him.
Yeah.
He specifically said 100% to you that he was responsible for killing that guy.
In those exact words.
I mean, I don't think he said, like, I murdered him, but the way you interpreted his statements that day, was it him saying, I ended that person's life?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, I ended his life because he was an ISIS guy. You guys shouldn't feel like there was anything that was wrong there. And past deployments, I've killed people in the same way that were just people, not even bad guys. So there's that. The meeting, you know, dispersed. And, you know, as I was thinking about this last night, I don't know if this is getting brought up yet, but there was another situation where a suspected ISIS member was in custody of ERD.
Let's talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
I want to go through this first
Okay.
before we get too far. Do you know about what date this was, or specifically what day this was?
I could find out, but
So that's going to be a huge thing for me, is if we can narrow that down. So if you've got a way to do that discreetly, I want to see if you can do that, because, I mean, the drone footage. Did you guys ever launch that drone?
that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the footage on my computer.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to get that. I want to get any photos. I want to get any, like, op reports. So figuring out what day specifically this was allows me to get all that stuff. And then I can see, do you think, or do you know whether or not you guys had eyes overhead? I mean, I know typically at night you've got IR coverage, but would you had any sort of aerial support that was giving you, that would have had eyes on you guys?
Yes, we had ISR at all times,
Mm-hmm.
but whether or not their sensors were slewed towards us, probably not.
Okay. Again,
Very slim.
Again, something I'm gonna look at, something I'm gonna pull just to, I mean, we take these investigations, they cover every single possible angle. So that footage is something I want to get for sure from you.
So right after, you know, everything had happened and there was that like hour time break where we were held there, I flew the drone to go do BDA on the buildings we had struck with mortars. I wanted to see what, you know, ISIS was completely gone through there, so there's no danger of our drone getting shot down. And so I flew that thing, you know, right over the building, looked at the hole it put in it, and then flew it back. So, you know,
I mean, when you're launching it and recovering that drone, it should have pretty good eyes on the area when you guys were in. So, I mean, with that, you probably figure out the specific exact coordinates and everything, right?
It probably has the geodata on there.
Okay. Well, that'll be extremely useful.
I could probably point out on a map where exactly that was too.
Might have you do that too. We might have to do like a follow-up too, especially after I get that drone footage. We'll see what we get from it. Okay, back to the original incident. Do you know where Eddie was supposed to be when all of that started going down, when all of this incident began? Was he supposed to be was he just set aside as the medic? Was he, you were obviously on the mortar team. Any idea where he was supposed to be assigned?
So typically he's supposed to be the TAC lead, so he's supposed to be, you know, probably there near Jake, coordinating the sniper position, the mortar tubes, coordinate everything. He never did.
Okay.
Never did that job. he was always on the sniper rifle in a sniper OP. And that day, I believe he was in a vehicle out on one of the outer posts, trying to engage with organic.
Okay. So you heard Jake say to bring that person back, thinking originally it wasn't an ISIS member.
Yeah.
So Jake gave that order. We brought him back in. Eddie's.
Well, he didn't say bring him in. He said he told TC, hey, come in.
Okay.
But yeah, he probably had said, yeah, you can bring that guy in because he's ERD.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably right.
No, correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm trying to put all these pieces together. So, Eddie came over the radio and specifically said, don't touch him, I got him.
Nobody touch him, he's all mine.
Nobody touch him, he's all mine. When you first heard that, how'd you interpret that?
So, at this point, Eddie has, throughout the year and a half I've been with him, he has told so many lies that have been unverified that it's like, to me at that point, it was, it's like, he's told so many lies, it's like, all right, this is just another, Eddie's just saying, whatever.
Okay.
He, had a long history of lying and, things that were verified by me, or things that I personally could be like, all right, I knew for sure he was, lying there. So, it's like weird because now that this incident has happened, you look back on 100 other things and you're like, holy shit, maybe he wasn't lying about some of these things. He very well could be lying about everything. But, yeah, where I was in that moment, it was like, Eddie's just full of shit again. He would sit on his sniper rifle all day long, just like, taking shots. Oh, I got him. And guys would be like, what do you got? Move the spotting scope to where he was at, not see anything. And
was he trying to, obviously, trying to make himself seem a lot, I don't know, cooler, better, whatever. Was he trying to create stats for himself too?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he claimed that he killed 240 people on deployment.
This last deployment?
In one deployment.
What do you think the next closest was? Was he the top as far as the number of people they claim they killed?
Was he number...
So your platoon,
yeah.
You guys deployed, was 240 people. If he truly did kill that, was he the highest of anyone?
Oh, yes. Okay. You're talking more than, like, the JTACs of the SOTF, who their job is to watch, feed all day long and strike, like, ISIS compounds. Like, more than that.
Okay. What do you think the typical was for somebody else who's deployed with you guys at the same time?
To be honest, the mortar team did have a lot of, engagements and success, but as far as a sniper, I would say, the shot opportunities were very, very difficult normally. Okay. It was a guy running at an alley at, 700 meters with a gun and with a small, window, and it was just like, oh, boom, you tried. As far as like legitimate shot opportunities, I think everyone probably had at least one. Max, guys that saw, had an occurrence where there was maybe multiple people present, or multiple things, maybe 4.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of the way I'm going to write this up. So Eddie claims 241 people, 240 people. What did you say the number was?
Well, so this is also not directly from. So Craig at some point had a conversation with Eddie, and Eddie's stats had come up,
okay.
And Eddie said, "Well, I've averaged 3 people a day, and we've gone out about 80 times. So you do the math."
Okay. Gotcha.
And it was like, well, okay, I'm gonna do the math here. 8 times 3.
Are these stats actually kept anywhere? It's all just personal stats. Okay.
Yeah. There's no. Yeah. I think I mean, maybe sometimes BDA, but no, that is not. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's go back to this incident and how it starts to happen. You show up, and you get there when this guy comes in on this Humvee on the stretcher, and you notice a leg injury. Describe that leg injury.
He was like completely dusty. If I had to describe the actual injury, I mean, it was like, pretty small. It may have been a big bleeder, but.
Okay. Do you think it was like a gunshot wound, shrapnel, like snapped his leg, running, something like that? Like, how would you?
If I had to guess, he was in a building that got struck.
Okay.
And then I actually think he may have said that to General Boss. He may have said,
okay.
I was struck in a building, and I think he was trapped under rubble, and that's how they got him.
Okay. Did you think that was a life-threatening injury where the guy was on the verge of dying?
No.
You described that they splashed water on his face and everything, trying to help him out. Was that because he was in pain, or is that because he was like struggling to breathe, or they're trying to calm him down? I mean, what was the purpose of that?
Well, for one, it was like 120 degrees,
okay.
and he's all dusty, and like, there's dust in his mouth and eyes, and so I think it was just to, kind of revive him a little bit. He's probably just got blown up. Yeah, and then it was obviously so General Boss could question him and get further intel.
So he's obviously answering questions when interviewed, interrogated, whatever you want to call it. But was he fighting? Like, was he like resistant, like going after, like trying to get away, trying to fight with people, or was he letting the medical care take place?
He was, when they pulled him off the Humvee, he was kind of in and out,
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like there was times where he was like, kind of struggling, and then, when General Boss grabbed him by the hand, he was very compliant at that point.
Okay.
But yeah, it seems like it was a little bit of both, as far as compliant and struggling.
Did you see the actual time when Eddie allegedly stabbed him?
I didn't.
Okay. Did you see the body after he was stabbed?
Yeah.
Did you see a stab wound anywhere?
No, I did not. There was bandages on his neck and on his side,
okay.
and that's what I saw.
Was there blood on the bandages?
I think his neck bandage was bloody.
Okay. When he came in, did you notice a wound on either his side or his neck?
No.
With the amount of blood that was on his neck from that bandage that you saw afterwards, do you think it's reasonable that you would have seen that neck injury when he first arrived if there was a pre-existing wound?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially when General Boss was sitting there talking to him, and I'm watching this guy trying to see what he's saying too. I've been in Arabic
Gotcha.
class, I'm trying to like what is he saying? I have no idea, but
okay.
yeah.
So you gotta excuse us a little bit. We're gonna ask some really kind of simple, like dumb questions, and it's just to make sure that we 100% make sure that we get like the pertinent exact details. Are you certain that that injury to his neck happened while he was there with Eddie after he arrived?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know anybody else who was an actual witness to the stabbing?
I think Craig had said he watched Eddie stab him.
Okay.
And from hearing Craig's, description of what happened, I think Corey Scott was right there.
Okay. Do you know if any Iraqis were around?
I don't know that. I know when I walked away, there were probably 15.
Okay.
Or more.
So you say it's General Voss?
A boss.
Oh, a boss. Okay.
A-B-O-S-S, yeah.
Okay. He was gone at this point. Had he left after he questioned this guy? Or was he somewhere still in the general area?
He was in the general area.
Okay.
But I believe he was on a radio, coordinating stuff. I think he was, when I left, I believe he was in the general area, yes.
Okay. That picture that was taken, any idea who took the picture?
I don't know.
Any idea whose phone might have it, anything like that?
Probably Eddie.
You think Eddie would have given someone his phone or camera or
one of the pictures?
Okay. I mean, was that something where, did you guys carry cameras with you? Did you carry your phones with you? I mean, obviously you don't really have cell phone service, but would you guys still take your phones with you, take your pictures and everything?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not unreasonable for him to have his cell phone with him where he could have had someone take a picture?
Yeah.
Okay. And that picture, was it the way you interpreted it? Like, I used to work on the border and we used to take what we call our trophy shots with like huge quantities, like thousands of pounds of marijuana that we'd seize.
Yeah.
Is that what it was, where he was taking a trophy shot with the dead body like there on the ground?
I think it's more of a like personal thing. I don't think it's as genuine and sincere as a money shot.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we call it, is a money shot.
Fair.
You know, because that's like, hey, we found this stuff. I think it was more like, hey, this is, the dude I just killed.
Was the dead body in the picture,
I
as
think
far
so.
as you recall?
I think so. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it was like, hey, come take a picture over here. I'm like, well, yeah, I think it was.
Okay. I asked about the aerial footage. Do you think you guys had like combat camera or anyone like with you guys? I mean, anybody else who would have been recording anything that day?
No, other than, if any of those ERD soldiers.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, do you know what kind of knife Eddie used?
Yeah, he got a half-face blades knife that he carried with him everywhere. I think
what kind was it?
Half-face blades.
Okay.
And it's if I saw it, I could tell you that's his knife, but I think it has like acid, etching on it, if I remember right.
Is it something that you still see him? Like, does he carry it still?
I haven't seen, him carrying it around.
You think you've seen it since you've been back in country, in the U.S.?
No, I haven't, but I wouldn't. I mean, it's like one of those things that Eddie is like, such a genius with certain social manipulations, but then there's other things that's like just a gross oversight, and I wouldn't doubt at all if he didn't wash the knife and it's just still sitting in his op box.
Okay. Where would it, potential locations, where would his op box be?
That would probably be at, where either his house, if he keeps his stuff at home, or his cage. Okay. So, our operator cage that has all the operator gear.
Okay. What was it? Fixed blade knife?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of protection did it have, or like sheath did it have?
I believe it was a black leather sheath, but leather. And the reason I know that is because everyone would always point out how he had no med pouch.
He had no med pouch?
Yeah.
Wasn't he a medic?
A medic and operating, in a dangerous place with no med pouch. So that was something that was always of note. Like, everyone had their med pouch on their butt, right? Yeah. And it was like, he just has his knife on his butt.
Yeah, we don't even do standard warrants with our med pouches on our kids. Okay. He's a medic, correct? Eddie is. TC, is he a medic?
Yes.
TC was the original one who was told by Jake, you said, to go and help treat this individual who came in?
I believe it, yeah.
Is there any reason why Eddie would have had more training, more experience, better medic, whatever, any reason at all that TC couldn't have treated that guy and that Eddie would have, it would have been necessary for Eddie to go take care of that guy?
Absolutely not. I think Eddie was actually delinquent on his, the 18 Delta qual. Mm-hmm. You have to upkeep it every so often.
Okay.
I believe he was delinquent on that because chiefs, they're supposed to be a chief, they're not supposed to be a medic.
Yeah.
TC, hands down, goes above and beyond, always with medicine. Okay. I think everyone was like, TC was a zealot for medicine.
Okay. So,
the best medic.
Let me just put this in the most basic form possible, and probably the same answer, but if you were in a situation where you were injured and it was between TC and Eddie having to provide medical care to you, which one would you choose?
TC.
Okay.
I would push Eddie away and do self-care before he jumped to me. Okay. Like I don't know what your guys' medical training is. You carry med pouches. I would 100% rather have you. I'd rather have my wife treating me. Like in a combat injury.
Have you ever seen Eddie provide medical care to an Iraqi?
No, and that's the other thing. So, that jogs my memory. Eddie came over the radio when Jake said, "Hey, there's an ERD guy." TC was on the roof at that point, I believe, and Eddie said, "Fuck that, TC, just stay on your position." So he was like, for one, he hates all Iraqis, right?
Okay.
He didn't want TC to treat him. Like it was, that was said.
Okay. Do you know if your comms would have been recorded that day?
No,
Are they all direct?
Yeah, it's all just line of sight.
Okay. So it's not like you're having a repeater where you're going back to jock or anything like that, or Okay. You got more follow-ups on this? I'm sure something will jump out.
I've got one thing too. That just came to mind. I don't mean to interrupt and jump around, but these are just things that are coming up. Eddie had also said, I've been investigated many times, and they can't prove shit on what happens on deployment, so I'm not worried about anything. And that's like a
interesting. Any idea what did he ever specify what he's allegedly been investigated for?
The story he told was, I wasn't, Eddie, so I don't want to jump around too much again, but Eddie was telling a story about how when he was a Marine, he was in the Navy always. He said he was a Marine, but he was in the Navy. He was a corpsman that worked for the Marines as FHM. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but he, some high-level guy was walking by and was holding a kid, and so he just shot, and the kid blew in half, and the guy died, and the Army lieutenant that was there was like, "I'm gonna, basically investigate you, all this." This is Eddie's version of the story. "I'm gonna investigate you for killing that kid, this, that, the other," and nothing came of it. So he's like, "I'm fine." He told this story in the high bay. I've heard this story multiple times from him, multiple versions of the same story. He told it in the high bay right when he first joined the platoon. I was gone, but Craig was there. Me and Craig are good friends, and Craig was there after the story was told, and basically said, "Hey, Eddie told me this story, or told everyone this story about how, he killed this kid," and he came up to Craig after the story and was like, "Why, Craig, it seemed like you're not all right with that." And Craig's like, "Well, yeah." Because when Eddie was telling the story, he's like, "Yeah, I shot this high-level guy," which is complete bullshit, but "I shot this high-level guy, and the kid blew in half. You gotta crack an egg to make an omelet." And Craig was upset with that, and I was like, and he was telling me about this, and I said, "Well, this is right when Eddie just first joined the platoon," and I was like, "Well, he was my first phase proctor," and he told that same exact story, but he said he didn't take the shot because he was like, didn't want to hurt the kid.
Really? So, it's typical Eddie just spewing, trying to seem cool in certain situations, or changing his stories, whatever, lying, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what he says he's been investigated for, but yet he's told it in the complete opposite way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just the fact, he's told stories about how he killed once again, not to me personally, I've heard this through guys who he's told it to, of him, like, there was some guy who was tied up in the corner of a, courtyard, and he ran up and stabbed him and killed him. And it's also maybe something of note, his fucking mug that he has, his nickname is Blade. That's what all his, that was his, whatever nickname from previous.
Self-given, you think?
I don't know.
Is that seem to be his thing? That he, I mean, obviously he's a sniper and killing people that way a lot of times, but does knife seem to be his weapon of choice? Don't know.
Yeah, it's what he. I think it helps him, like, you know, that may be like the most, you know, ruthless way to kill someone, the most personal way. If I don't know if you guys have read a book on killing, it's like, even if you watch, you know, ISIS execution videos, they don't look them in the face. They put a head cover over them. No, there's almost no one in the world who can kill someone, you know, that personally with a knife, you know, looking at them. And Eddie, you know, from Craig's testimony, did that. Like, literally the worst of the worst.
Absolutely.
So.
Have you ever heard him talk about that book? Or anything like that?
No.
Has he ever referenced it or anything, or is it just that kind of idea?
No, I was just reading that book on deployment, and it, you know, I was putting these things together, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, like you said, I'm gonna run over a bunch of stuff, just because I may have either written it down wrong or I may have just not caught it, and I just want to make sure that I'm tracking. So, you said that all the way at the very beginning, you said that you guys were next to a grain silo on a flot?
Yep, it may have not been a grain silo, a tall, prominent building.
Okay. And what is that, a flot, just for my own ignorance?
Forward line of troops.
Okay. Alright, cool. And you said it was normal for, like, if ERD or the civilians were injured, for them to bring them up and ask for help. That was somewhat of a normal thing.
Yep.
Okay. And we may have already covered this. I just want to make sure. Did you ever see Eddie provide aid to anybody? Even team members or anything? Even all the way down to like a paper cut? Anything?
I'm trying to think, like, back into ULT. No.
Okay.
Was he actually providing medical treatment at one point to this kid while he was being interviewed?
It's possible.
I mean, you didn't see him taking care of the wounds. He was just there, and
you know, now that you, so immediately when he showed up, I think he was packing the his leg wound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yep.
And keep in mind, a lot of the questions, like you said, that we ask are going to sound ridiculous, or they're going to sound like that doesn't even make sense. Why are you asking this stupid question? Just bear with me.
Okay.
Okay. Because we have to look later down the road for possible defenses or possible, you know, arguments that he's going to have, and we like to get in front of that. Okay. For us, you know, the easiest fight to win is one we can avoid, and if we can lay out all the groundwork to not even have that fight or not even have that defense, then it makes it that much easier on us to have a really solid case.
Yeah.
So, have you ever been in a situation where you saw anybody have to get a trach, or do you know what that is? Like a tracheotomy?
Yeah.
And have you ever been in a situation where you have to actually see somebody get that in the field?
Not in the, well, it was in the CCP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever seen Eddie do that to anybody, or provide that aid to anybody?
No.
Okay. Had he ever said that he had before? You ever hearing a story about him saying that, or?
I think yeah, that's weird. It's like things that are just, he had said he'd done a trach before with a key. I don't know if that was on so we do medicine on pigs. I don't know if that was a pig or an 18 Delta on a goat. I'm not sure, but.
Have you ever heard of them giving a story on an actual person outside of training?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen it done outside of training?
Uh, yes, I have.
Okay.
Yep. Or outside of training.
Like, actually on an operation or anything like that?
No. Just
No.
In the CCP. I don't know if that counts as real world. That I guess is maybe more of a training environment. But yeah, there's where I've seen it.
Okay.
Where was that wound on the neck?
From my memory, on the side.
Do you remember specifically right or left side? It's fine if you don't.
No.
Okay. Sorry, I'm
No,
kind
you're
of jumping on
Go ahead.
board of what you were asking. Based on the location of that wound, is there any possibility that that was from an attempted trade?
On the side?
Yeah.
I don't think, no. I think, yeah, tracheotomies in my experience happen right here.
Okay. Just, again, is there any possible way that that wound could have been in conjunction with any sort of medical treatment that Eddie was trying to provide? Is there anything that you've ever seen in your deployments, in your medical training, that Eddie could say that he was trying to provide medical care and it just didn't work?
No. The one thing I have heard is, the rule of medicine is to do no further harm. That's like the golden rule, and that was clearly not the case.
Okay. Again, we understand some of it are ridiculous, but
Yeah.
we want to make sure that he can't come in and say that that's what he was trying to do.
And he's going to be coming with absolutely everything, I'm sure. And
yeah.
So, in your experience or your training, would that be consistent with what you've seen before, what you've been trained to do, or anything like that?
No.
Okay. When you saw the kid or the guy, can you describe like how old this person appeared to be?
14, 12, 13, 14.
Okay.
And I actually went up to, this guy was, he was rail thin. I'm a skinny guy, and he was skinny. I went up to an interpreter after the whole thing, and there was interpreters there too that, worked for us that, were visibly like, you could see them, were like, holy, like everyone else.
Do you remember specifically which interpreters? I know you had like nicknames for them and everything, but
I don't remember the guy's name because he was a kind of a specialized interpreter that would do certain things, and those guys were kind of in and out. But it was a guy with long gray hair.
okay.
I don't know what his name is, but I went up to him and I was like, hey, how old is that guy? Because oftentimes, in different cultures, you're like, wow, that guy looks like he's like, very young.
Yeah.
And something to the effect of he's no younger than 20. I think he's like 25, 26 is what this guy said. And that, was like, oh, well, I was wrong on that.
So you thought he was a lot younger?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you saw this guy, kid, whoever it was, get brought in on the Humvee, did you say he was on a stretcher?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he yelling or being vocal, or did he seem to have any kind of airway issues or anything like that?
No, I don't think he had any airway issues. He was speaking to Colonel Abbas, and then yelling. I don't recall him yelling specifically, but he was speaking to General Abbas.
Okay.
And
he was colonel. Now he's general.
Maybe he was Colonel Abbas. Maybe I'm saying that wrong.
No,
yeah.
I heard you say it both. I'm just curious.
Okay. Yeah.
Who was he? Actually, what's his actual position?
He was the basically guy, the general or colonel, the commanding officer in charge of the ERD, all the ERD battalions.
Okay.
And so he would relay us to us their position,
Okay.
you know, what they needed in support.
He's an actual ERD dude?
Yeah.
Okay. Just to make sure. Any idea what his first name is? I don't.
No.
Okay.
It's probably written on.
I'm sure it's
gotta be
tracked
written
down pretty
somewhere.
easily, yeah.
You remember what he looked like? Anything peculiar or anything that stood out about the way he looked? Was he real tall, real fat, real skinny? Anything?
No, nothing real memorable.
Okay. Any facial hair, mustache, anything like that?
He might have had a mustache. I think he had a mustache.
Okay.
Well, maybe not. I could probably look. I probably have pictures with him.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that would make it pretty easy.
yeah.
Okay. Maybe we can follow up with that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on him?
Something else too.
Uh-huh.
So there was this like ERD intel guy
Mhm.
who would follow us around, and everyone was pretty suspect of this guy. Like, you know, you'd think that there would be like all this control, command and control over there, but it was like, I mean, it was the Wild West, and we were out there, we were on our own, and you know, granted, there's always ISR overhead, but those, you know, sensors, we A, know right where they are, B, you know, they're very concentrated.
Mhm.
So it's like, you know, people would show up and it's like, who the hell is this guy? And it was their like intel officer, and you know, he eventually, you know, we figured out he was sourced from the SOTF, so it was like a vetted guy. After this all, he asked Eddie, hey, you want to cut that guy's head off? And Eddie said, no, I don't want to cut his head off. But that was one of the, you know, things that he offered to him. I don't know if that offers anything. I just thought of that.
Do you remember that guy's name?
No, I think he may have gotten put in jail for war crimes.
Okay.
Was he with you for most of the deployment?
Just a short window. I think he got pulled for that.
Okay.
And that's any idea or insight as to why? Like what the actual war crime was?
No,
Probably something like that.
probably.
Good. Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You said the ISIS guy, when he was talking to a boss, he was telling him where did the ISIS guy claim to be from?
Now, if my memory serves me correct, it was the 14th Battalion.
Okay. So
But it was that local battalion there
okay.
in the area.
And he said that they killed how many? This is
Roughly 20.
Okay. And did you say there was 5 that got away?
Yep.
Okay.
A handful of guys got away.
Okay. So, and you said everybody, like there was a lot of people, ERD side that had their phones out and were screwing around. Okay. Did you ever, or since that day, have you ever actually seen a picture from that day?
Yes.
Okay. What picture was it that you saw?
I believe it was the group picture.
Okay.
Who had that?
It was on a platoon computer where everyone would put, you know, everything the guys had on helmet cameras, everything, you know, all pictures kind of went to there.
Okay. Was it all uploaded onto like a server for?
I don't think so.
Okay. Where was that at? Like, where were you actually located when that happened?
When I saw the picture, that was overseas.
Okay. Would that computer have stayed there, or would it have come back?
It came back.
Okay.
You think all that stuff is still on that computer?
I would think so. Yeah. If not, I think it you know, from the SSE courses I've been through, everything's recoverable.
Yeah.
So even if it is deleted, I mean, it'll all be.
Do you have any idea where specifically it might be?
I think TC still has it. TC was the, you know, had the computer.
Okay. So he was the one that showed you that I had the picture up on the computer?
He didn't show me. I believe I just saw it on there.
But it was TC's computer? Is that right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay.
It was the computer, the platoon computer.
Oh, okay. I got you. Do you know what kind of computer it is by chance?
Alienware, I believe.
Okay.
It's like a gaming type, maybe not that exact brand, but gaming type computer.
Okay. Was it like a tough book or anything like that? Like a hardened up computer or anything? Or was it just a regular?
Regular.
Okay.
Yeah. Commercial. Off the shelf.
Alright, cool. And was it Eddie telling you to get in the fucking picture?
No.
Who was it saying that?
Jake.
Jake? Okay. What was his kind of demeanor when you told him you weren't doing it? Was he?
Like, it's an adjective, like, kind of impartial, like, in the end, like, hey, you should get in this picture, and then it was like, okay, kind of thing.
I got you.
When I was like, no, fuck no, I'm not getting it. That's when he's like, yeah, okay.
Did anybody else tell him to kick rocks or anything, or?
I don't know. That exchange was just between me and him because I was sitting in the MAV.
Okay. Sorry, I'm looking through it. You did a really awesome job of kind of going into detail and articulating everything. So I really don't have a whole lot to follow up on. But
Okay.
I got something real quick. Was the body moved at any point, or was it when you ended up seeing the subject when he was dead? Was it the same spot where he was originally brought into?
I believe so. Yeah.
You think it was the same general spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know on follow-on ops, like people would look and like, holy sh! I bet you anything. Actually, I don't know if now, but he may very well still be just right there.
Oh shit! So that body was still there in that general area later on?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't there was bodies everywhere, and they would clean up here and there, but that guy was there for a while, as far as I know.
Okay. At the end, we've heard that there was a possibility that there was a little ceremony that was done at the end of all of this while you guys were still out there in the field before returning to base.
Yeah.
What was that?
I believe it was. Well, yeah, I was. I probably provide witness to that. I was around the corner. I heard it. It was Eddie's re-enlistment ceremony.
So, any idea how that came about, or why it came about?
I mean, I would guess that because a significant thing had just happened, and it was like a milestone kind of thing, like
Some.
re-enlist over the dead body of an ISIS guy that you killed with a knife.
Okay. Who administered that?
Jake.
So that wasn't a planned thing. It was something. I mean, obviously his re-enlistment had come up. They had to do it at some point, but they just decided they were going to do it right then.
Yeah.
Any idea whether it was Eddie's idea, Jake's idea, someone else's idea?
I'm not sure on that. Yeah. Which is weird too, because like a re-enlistment ceremony, and maybe many other groups and departments and services is a big deal, and guys do that.
Yeah.
Like nothing happens when we re-enlist.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I think you just have to sign a piece of paper. I did an extension, and it's not like our community does not make a big deal about it. It's just
you guys aren't about showboating. Yeah, I get it.
some people,
Why?
the thousands of books that are out there might tell otherwise.
Okay, fair enough. You're not supposed to be about showboating.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a re-enlistment ceremony done in a situation like that?
No.
you ever seen, I mean, so was that just completely off base and completely contrary to anything you've ever seen before?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, if you've got some.
No, because all the stuff that I need to follow up on is the next story.
Yeah.
So I think.
Mind if I take a bathroom break real quick?
Yeah,
I've been drinking a lot of water. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, this, I was pretty nervous about this.
I'll be right.
Yeah. I mean,
This thing has been, a weight on a lot of people for a long time. And like literally just saying everything right there, that was like hard. And I don't know, I just want, there's like a weight that's lifted off of me right now.
I can tell you that you obviously, I mean, you seem a little nervous, and like it's the people we've talked to regarding this case. It seems to be a general consensus. Like, this is a big deal. I'm not gonna try and downplay this and tell you it's not, but like, there's clearly right and wrong. There's very few that are so black and white in the world, and if this went down and everyone's saying it went down, then it's just very obviously very, very wrong. So
Okay.
I appreciate you guys coming forward. I know it's tough. I know it's not something that's easy. I know there's been attempts to report things in the past and nothing's really been done. So as soon as we found out, we got going right away on it.
Yeah.
And we will. I think getting water, I'm positive. Do you wanna start talking about, I mean, what other incidents do you know of where Eddie's done something that's questionable?
So I could kind of start with like blanket statements, and then narrow in.
Let's start with stuff you heard about, so we can go over that, and then we'll
Okay.
see things you actually witnessed.
Okay. So stuff I've heard about, him killing young women, non-combatants. He has a self-proclaimed story of him stabbing a few Marines at a bar.
Any idea where that allegedly occurred?
No, he was telling this story while we were up at CQC one time. He's telling this story about how he got into an altercation with Marines and ended up pulling out his knife and stabbing all these guys, and getting away and calling his dad and asking for his dad to help him ditch the murder weapon because it was on him. And
so he actually killed one of them?
I don't know if they died or if he killed them. That's just his words were that he had the murder weapon on him, and enlisted his dad's help to get away.
So obviously it happened in the U.S.
Yeah.
Any indication of when it might have happened, alleged time frame, anything like that?
No.
Okay. Did he go into a lot of detail about, anything else about the Marines, about it that sticks out? Any other, specific details?
Other than it was multiple of them outside of a bar.
Okay. And he claims to have killed multiple or just stabbed multiple?
Stabbed multiple.
Okay. Any idea where he's from?
Indiana.
Okay. Do you know if that's where his dad would still be, if that's...
Probably.
Okay. Obviously all things we can track down, but it just...
And now that it's my head kind of was exploded as soon as it was wow, he just, killed this ISIS dude with a knife. Now all of a sudden, all these stories kind of have to be honored in some sort of way.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. All the things that you just dismissed in the past is just trying to build up your reputation. And
and now you don't know, never know what's what, but still now it's now I have to, I think they at least need to be honored.
Mm-hmm. No other details you remember about that? Obviously that's some good information.
I think he might have said it was a Benchmade knife.
Okay. They talk about where he stabbed him or anything like that? Just said they got in a fight in a bar. This happened out in the parking lot or inside the bar? Or?
I think I think outside of the bar.
How long ago do you think he told you about this?
That was the start of that was about 2 years ago.
Okay. So just 2016 maybe?
Yeah.
Roughly.
April time frame-ish.
Okay. So it would have been prior to that.
GLT.
Did he make it sound like something that recently happened, something that happened in the last couple of years, something that might have happened like a decade prior? Any sort of general... was he a SEAL at the time when this happened?
We get issued Benchmade knives, so if that's any indication. It'd be hard to say if it was a decade. He was worried about getting in trouble for being in the service, but he's been in, I think, for 19 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that narrows anything down.
Sounds good. Any other incidents that he's talked about? Any specifics with the killing young women, the non-combatants?
I know
he brags about these things, or you've heard about these things, or what's the context for finding out about them?
So one of the ways was he told, I'm trying to think of exactly who he told. He told Craig that, burkas were flying.
Okay.
And he told him that in a meeting aimed at figuring out what me and Dalton had told Craig as far as what had been going on, because Craig was gone for a big chunk of deployment for his baby leave.
Yeah.
And so it was Dalton ran the show, and I was roommates with him, and we kind of pinged off each other the whole time trying to do stuff. So that's where that came from, about him killing women. I know. So
what were you guys actively doing? What were you and Dalton or Craig doing to try and deal with the situation?
So starting big to small, or small to big rather. On the smallest level, myself, Dalton, the other snipers, like these were long days. You know, these were, it's 120 degrees, freaking with body armor in the reverse scorpion position, looking through a tiny hole, and it was like, you know, it's hard to keep that up and maintain that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that honestly was a drive, I think, for a lot of guys, was to, as soon as people would come down this street, to shoot warning shots before Eddie could get to them.
Okay.
And so that was the micro level. Guys would manage that.
Okay.
Guys came to me. Oh, sorry.
No. I want to talk about this. So you did that. You actively did that.
Absolutely.
Dalton did that.
Yep.
Which other snipers did that?
TC's not a sniper, but he.
You are a sniper.
Yes.
Okay. Just
yep.
want to make sure. Who else?
TC's not a sniper. He was a medic, so he was always with us,
Mm-hmm.
and he would get his turn on the rifle.
Okay.
I witnessed him shoot multiple warning shots.
Did Eddie ever say anything to you guys about doing that?
He thought we were missing.
Okay.
And he would be like, "You fucking missed."
Good for you guys.
No, we hit right, and it was actually like this is detracting, but it was you know, this is just a side note. TC, the first time he shot a warning shot, you know, not the first time on the rifle, but the first time an opportunity came to him, he's like, "Holy, there's a guy coming down the road!" And Dalton, I was off the rifle taking a break. Dalton was the other guy on the rifle. We typically had two guys on a rifle. Just calm as could be, like, "All right, I'll let you make the decision." And TC's like, okay. And Dalton's just watching him. And TC gets down on his gun, thinking, you know, this might be, you know, his only opportunity. And he gets down, he goes, "Oh, that's not an ISIS guy." And Dalton's like, "Yep, told you." And so TC shoots and gives him a warning shot, and it's pretty close to him. You know, you want to give him a warning shot a few feet in front of him, but still, the first time you do it, it's like, it's nerve-wracking to try and scare someone without killing them.
Yeah.
And TC was like, "Holy shit!" Like his face was just like, dude, that was like witnessing the power of that was like, you know, really profound for him. And so, side note.
That's a crazy story, actually. I mean, did you guys get together and all decide this is what you were going to do? I mean, you guys had actively talked about this, that it was to protect people from Eddie?
Yeah, that was talked about. I know I didn't witness a personal conversation, but I, you know, just heard the other day that guys were messing with his rifle, were, you know, going into the scope on a sniper rifle and changing the dope. So,
Any idea who was doing that?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So Eddie would spend a lot of time, you said previously, on his rifle as well. Would he be in like another sniper spot, different spot, or where would he typically be? Or was he usually close by you guys as well?
Close by. Sometimes, you know, one building over, sometimes a couple hundred meters, sometimes literally right next to each other.
So he could have been that guy in that second gun right next to you when you're firing that warning shot, just so he can't get that actual shot off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the guys would come to me too, so that was like another thing why like we were mitigating as best we could, was because guys would come into us and being like, "Hey, I'm on specific situation." Christian Mullen came up to me and said, "Hey," they call me Day Day, it's the most unfortunate nickname. You guys probably already knew that, but Day Day is my nickname. So they said, "Hey Day Day, I'm gonna be on the rocket team tomorrow, and if any of these targets that Eddie gives me are bad, do you mind just coming over the radio and saying that, you know, just give me something that says, you know, no shot, or scare them away, do something, please." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I got you all day." And so guys were, you know, very concerned about this, and we had meetings that were like, "Hey, if you don't feel comfortable," I believe this meeting was run by Dalton. He pulled everyone in when Craig was gone and said, "Hey, if you don't feel comfortable doing anything, feel free to tell Eddie straight to his face, and we will back you up 100% if you have to. In the meantime, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to fire warning shots. We're going to do everything." This brings up another specific example. AJ was the GFC. I was on the mortar tube this day on the east side.
He was a what?
The GFC, Ground Force Commander.
Okay.
And, you know, AJ is a JO, so it was his first time getting the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he was nervous, and Eddie would just, you know, manipulate the officers as best he master of manipulating them.
Okay.
And we were on the mortar tube, and he basically called for a mortar strike in Old Mosul, which we hadn't done at this point to target people. We had done registration in big open fields. We were never, doing specific targeting because it was just too packed in. There were civilians everywhere. And Eddie called for a mortar strike in a spot that there was typically crawling with civilians. And so I'm right there with AJ, and AJ's like, do you have eyes on the ground to, mitigate civ gas? And he's like, yeah, I got eyes on, there's no one there. And I was like, AJ's like, should I go, he's deciding, should I go through with this? And I was like, AJ, you can't see ground level from that building he's speaking of, you can't see ground level. There was only a few streets that you could actually see ground level. And so I told him that, and AJ's like, all right, cool. And then he just said, what I can't remember his exact verbiage, but he used that to, call off the mortar strike, to tell Eddie, hey, I'm not going to fucking shoot mortars.
Okay. So I want to put this in context, and just, I know this, just to make sure we're on the same page. You guys, your platoon, was this like a platoon? Everybody was in the same feeling as far as Eddie went? Were there other people who were kind of on his side, or was everyone kind of afraid of what he was doing?
I think in the end, everyone was afraid of what he had done.
Okay.
But I think there was a spectrum along the way where people started to realize.
Okay. So you guys, knowing full well that Eddie is potentially one of your sniper supports, you guys felt it was necessary, or somebody, not necessarily you directly, somebody at least felt it was necessary to mess with his rifle and potentially lose that cover in order to protect civilians, like the problem was that bad?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty damning statement that it was that bad of a problem where you would jeopardize, that type of cover. That gives a lot of context to this situation. Let's get into, so we were talking about things he's heard about, we're going to do. I was waiting for you until we get into other things he'd actually seen. Have you seen him actually shoot someone, non-combatant, women, anything like that? Or kill them, or do anything else?
So this is, I want to be 100% clear so that there's no interpretation down the line.
Absolutely.
So there was two buildings that we would typically frequent on the east side while operations were happening on the west side. And I was a sniper in the southern building. Eddie was a sniper in the northern building. I can't remember who else was there. But at some point, there's multiple there was probably 4 to 5 areas we could see street level. Mm-hmm. And so we would, move to all these different places. And I scanned to the spot, and there was 2 guys standing on the corner there. One guy was gray, completely gray, frail, in a white man dress. That's,
yeah, I got you.
White man dress. He was with another gentleman, obviously not combatants, having no, at the time there was instruction that there was people, or at least it was portrayed to us, that there was ROEs stating that people going to get water could possibly be assisting ISIS. These guys were not doing that. They were standing on the corner, unarmed, and right as I scanned to him, a shot went out from the other OP, and I saw it strike the guy. And he, they both took off running. They're old men, so it was like, I thought he was gonna, get another shot on him and possibly hit him. But he gets around the corner, and by this point, we knew we had very intimate knowledge of what each OP could see. We had been in them, 10 times a piece, so we knew exactly. You could say, yeah, red door, and everyone, I know where the red door is.
Yeah.
So he went around this area where I knew Eddie couldn't see him, and that's when I saw a big red stain right here, okay, on his back quarter.
Okay.
And he fell down, and he's like, he was trying to like catch his balance, like grabbing on stuff, and then he fell down. And that was Father's Day. I remember that because I was like, gosh, this guy's like probably a dad. That this happened. That may have been Father's Day in the States instead of Father's Day in Iraq. I'm not sure exactly which day, but it was Father's Day in one of those areas. And so then the guy got up and staggered and walked back. At this point, he's under the cover. He can't be seen by Eddie. He walks back, falls down again, and I was like just praying for this guy. And I don't know if you guys are like that, but I just praying for him. And he got up and then walked away. And I don't know if he made it or what, but he was definitely shot.
Went into a building at some point, or
he went behind a bus and then onto a street that we have no visibility on.
Okay.
And the gentleman that was on glass on the other building, he came to me, he was a new guy, and said, Dille, did you see Eddie kill that old guy? And I, from watching it, I immediately knew that it was Eddie that took the shot. No one else in the platoon would have done that. And so I didn't even follow up. I didn't even say, hey, was that Eddie, this, that, the other. It came from him, and it was like, that was kind of a validating moment for me, like, oh yeah, I was right. It was Eddie. Shocker.
Who was that?
Josh Graffam.
How do you spell his last name?
Graffam.
Him?
Graffam. And he had confirmed that it was Eddie that took the shot. And this whole time, Dalton was, narrating. At this point in deployment, it was like we were feeling pretty hopeless, just doing everything we could, firing warning shots, and it was like still, we had brought it up. Things weren't this is hard to do, really hard to do, but because Jake was, this is crazy. I don't necessarily fault Jake. He was like under Eddie's spell, and but this is all going to come out, and he may very well face some serious consequences, and so it's just going to have to come out. But Dalton was narrating this whole thing like, yep, Eddie just killed a 80-year-old man.
And would tell Jake on a regular basis?
Yeah, on a regular basis would narrate what Eddie was doing.
Do you think Jake was passing up the chain at all?
I don't think so. I feel like maybe he did. I have no idea. Maybe he did, and maybe it took this long. It seems like he didn't. So yeah, Dalton was the most vocal, and he would like ruthlessly not cover anything. Just say exactly what was happening and just lay it out, day in and day out. And one of the other narrations was that there was like a, and this day was especially difficult because it was, there were bad guys coming down this alley, guys with weapons, guys in kit, and then there would be women and kids. And we had like a very small amount of time to try and decide if it's ISIS and we're going to try and dispatch them, or if it's a civilian and we're going to try and scatter them. And we, it's not like, it was never super fun for me, just, killing ISIS guys, but it was something that needed to be done. And that was something that we were like, man, we could have really affected this battle space if we could have let entire situations develop and not had to just almost always default to, yep, that guy's probably okay, we're going to scare him.
Yeah.
Instead of effectively saying, letting it develop, seeing if this guy is possibly bad. So we would err on the side of caution and just, without a doubt, I believe that a lot of those guys were ISIS and were scared away by warning shots because we had to just make a decision like that.
Because you were afraid of Eddie and what he would do.
Yeah. And countless times we had said, like, if we could just fight ISIS, like, we would be so much more effective. But it's the fact that we have all this Eddie effect going on. But this, in a roundabout way to get back to this day, like I said, there was, bad guys running back and forth, innocent people just coming to get water, guys that looked very nefarious coming to get water, things that we could verify with other sources that, hey, this guy is in fact bad. I don't know if I should disclose, probably shouldn't disclose all the, ways you can decide that, but there's ways to, corroborate evidence to say that, that guy's bad.
Yeah.
And that was being utilized at times. And so that's where we based our stuff off of. And I know that Eddie's going to say, well, that guy had a weapon on him. Well, that guy was bad. Well, we had a whole bag of tools at our disposal to use to discern bad and good. And I promise you, no one in that platoon, like, ISIS did terrible things to people, and, like, we were there to rid them, and that's what people wanted to do. And what I'm trying to say is that people wanted to affect the enemy, but affect only the enemy, and use all tools to their, to discern who's bad and good.
Yeah.
And there were times where it was like, that dude 100% is good. There was obviously gray lines, that was hard. There were hard decisions. But the fact that Eddie always lived on the side of, everyone was, it didn't matter. There was no good or bad. And this is another roundabout way of, saying what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you said previously that you felt that he hated all Iraqis and that he wouldn't even help the ERD guys. Did he specifically vocalize at different points that he hated Iraqis? I mean, or was it just through his actions? I mean, was he one of those guys who would sit around?
Fuck these people.
Yeah.
So he said, we would go, at our team house in Kurdistan, we would, we were safe in Kurdistan. And so, we would go to a shopping mall. It's pretty crazy. One day, no shit, fighting ISIS, and then a 45 or hour and a half drive, and there's a shopping mall that's as nice as Mission Valley.
Really?
Yeah. And Eddie was like, I don't fucking vacation in Middle Eastern countries. Fuck these people.
Would he go with you guys in the mall, or would he just stay back in the house?
No, if he needed something, he would go. But yeah. So I just want to say back to the original thing that I was getting at on this day specific day where it was really hard to, where it was a difficult situation. I saw Eddie take a shot at probably a 12-year-old kid. This is my estimate of his age. He missed him.
That same day?
Yeah. Oh, the same day as the Father's Day? No,
okay.
This is a different day.
Okay.
Missed him. Dalton narrated that.
Is it just over the radio or over comms? Or
that was
in person?
by mouth, yeah.
Okay. So there's no written, I mean, Dalton could provide all these things in statements, but there's no actual written communication. It wasn't like he was writing up anything else.
No.
Okay.
Is he next to you, or where is he at in this scenario?
In the same building, in a different, basically, sniper hide.
Okay.
So would he put it out and tell Jake what's going on the spot, or would he wait till you guys RTB'd and then tell him that night, this happened today?
He would tell him on the spot.
Okay. Sorry, going back as a 12-year-old. Sorry, we keep bouncing around. How'd that incident happen?
He was, it was I'm trying to remember exactly, specifics. I can't remember exactly how many personnel he was with, that young kid, as he was coming down. I can't remember exact things about it. Honestly, I'm trying to think about what he was wearing. Just that it was a young boy, very young.
Do you remember around what time frame this was?
early morning, or late morning.
How about like date wise, like June? Was it like the time that Miller was gone on baby leave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You think before or after the Father's Day incident?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah, it was before.
You guys set up in the same buildings, different area completely?
Same buildings.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the other. So this isn't probably pertaining to any criminal investigation, but if there was a tactical police, we would all be like absolutely just a case study for what not to do.
Just because you stayed in those buildings too long?
Yeah, and Eddie would constantly put people in, we would constantly like go to him with different people to be like, hey, this is a bad idea to go back to the same building. Well, then the new group came in. Eddie said, we're going back.
Okay.
Well, then a SPG-9 missile hits that sniper hide, and it's like, okay, let's don't go back. Well, we're gonna go back.
And it's just because you wanted to get eyes, that was a good spot where you get eyes and start shooting people? Is that why you think it was?
Yep, and that's where he could, like literally, there was civilian opportunity everywhere.
So he brags about 80 days, 3 people a day, right? That's what you said earlier?
Yeah.
Do the math, 240 people. I mean, those were his words. Do you, realistically, how many people do you think he killed?
So I've thought about this. Realistically,
And I know that there's no way you can verify this. This is a guess on
Yeah.
your part, so it's not like I'm holding you to this.
20 to 50 people,
Okay.
maybe.
Is that legitimate or illegitimate, or like both combined, or?
So I think maybe, in all honesty, he may have connected with, I just don't want to way overestimate because he would like miss all the time. But I have seen him, shoot at legitimate ISIS people and hit them. Is probably my guess. Of those 20 to 50, maybe very well as maybe as 50, probably 2 to 5 were ISIS.
Okay.
Because those are like, if you, this is kind of like, in other communities, maybe look, and in other walks of life, it's like, weird to keep track of how many people an individual has killed, but if you are counting, like, if it's 2 to 5, that's probably in line with the most, the people that had the most opportunities at, engaging the enemy.
Okay. So let's talk about that for a second. Do you think that Eddie kept track of this in any way? Do you think he had some notebook? Did you keep sniper records on these things? Do you have sniper logs you keep?
I wrote down every single op we went on and all significant events in my journal.
Do you still have that journal, or was it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
That would probably be, I should have brought that today.
Let's,
I'm going to make a list of things.
yeah, that's exactly what we're going to say. There's a handful of things we can...
Does that only involve you, or is it the team in general?
It's typically, if I remember correctly, it's typically only me, and to remember, like, just have some sort of memory of deployment.
So, is your computer with all of the footage and stuff like that, like the drone footage that you would have downloaded, is that a classified or unclass system?
Unclass.
Okay. I just want to make sure before we ask you to bring that over here or anything. I think I want to get that. I want to get, I want you to check and see if that computer, it's TC who maintains control over it. We'll talk to him. I don't want you to grab the computer or anything like that. We'll have him grab it for us if he's the one who's the custodian of it. And I want you to see just what else you can find as far as pictures. If you've got anything on your computer or anything like that, I want to see if we can go through your phone and see what else is there, as far as like photos from any of these incidents, anything Eddie's done. I mean, do you have text messages with Eddie? Do you talk to him ever?
No, I mean, in platoon, back and forth.
It's all like group chat messages or what?
Yeah.
Has he ever, like, I know we probably need to get into this in a second, but has he ever threatened you in any way, said anything to you specifically about, don't ever talk about things I've done?
Yep. So he has, so through the grapevine, he told, Corey Scott, he pulled him aside because right when we got back from deployment, things were starting to filter out.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like on a witch hunt, just going around figuring out who was talking. The funny thing is we weren't even back from deployment, but until, he was home before us.
Okay.
And so it was like, kind of preceded him. But yeah, he told Corey, I believe, that anyone who is talking shit about him, he's gonna murder him.
Okay.
He's gonna murder anyone who talks shit about him. By talking shit, meaning saying what happened. We actually had a meeting after our first or second operation out. So we were in a sector system. We had sector 7, sector 8,
Mm-hmm.
and we would shift off on days, off days. We eventually rotated to on weeks, off weeks, and on the at this point we were on days, off days. So both sectors were present at our house in Badouche? Yeah, in Badouche. And after the first day, we got shot at that day, and one of the ERD guys got shot, and there was like some lessons learned for us. And on the way home, in the trucks, Eddie said, "Don't tell the other group what happened today." And we're like, okay, we've been friends for 7 years, and we have lessons that could keep our brothers alive. So this wasn't vocalized. He just said that, don't fucking talk to the other group about what happened.
Any idea why?
I think at this point he was still trying to keep, everything as segmented as possible, as sectioned as possible, to try and compartmentalize his stuff.
Okay.
But we got back and they were like, what happened? And everyone was kind of like, it was the first time we had gotten shot at on that deployment, and so everyone was kind of standoffish. And one guy in particular, Josh Friends, was like, "Why won't you talk to us?" And he was like pissed, like he wanted to fight. And we were like, "Josh, we're gonna settle it in a minute, okay? Just don't worry about it." And he was so mad. But then again, when Eddie went off to his, briefing with the SOTF, Craig called a meeting and we told him everything. It was like, "Hey, this is what happened. We went to this building. We got shot at from, we think, this direction. So you're going to want to, place a vehicle here, here, and here because we think the shots came from this way. We think it would have been better we were in a compound. We think it would have been better to get on possible avenues of approach so we weren't confined into a compound. We had no way out of there." And it was like things like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's how we mitigated again.
What other times did he threaten you guys? He obviously did. Any time back in the States? Anytime he told you guys to keep your mouth shut? Anytime? Not necessarily threaten. Did he just tell you don't talk about my business? Anything along those lines?
Yeah, he pulled. There was a meeting when right the week we got back from deployment,
Mm-hmm.
I think, or the week after, or after leave. Very soon after deployment. I want to say it was even that week we got back. Craig was like, I had heard about what Craig told me what he said. He said, "Jake, guys are upset with what happened on deployment. I'm using my chain of command. I'm going to you." And so, and laid out what, he's like, "I think you know what this is about already, but this is, we have issues." And so they called a meeting, and I was in Intel, turning in all the Intel equipment, so I missed it. But I came back and was upstairs, and Eddie pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, there's all this shit talking going on. Basically, he was trying to broker a deal with me to, you stop talking shit, and then we'll all stop, and it'll kind of like all stop, because his thing was he like called ahead. He told everyone that we were all pussies at war, and you know, we didn't want to go out and all this stuff, and whatever, we dealt with all that. That was his talking shit. Our talking shit was, if any SEAL asked us what happened, we'd tell them all. You know, and I never had anyone come up to me. I never gotten these really deep conversations into into specifics, except with, actually no, I was gonna say except with my brother, because I've been meaning to. He's an East Coast SEAL. I haven't even told my brother about all this. But that's what Eddie was trying to control, you know.
Yeah.
And basically saying, you know, stop talking about it.
Did he? Was it implied or was it directly said that he was talking about stop talking about the people that he'd shot, the things he had done overseas?
He was directly saying stop talking shit about me.
Okay.
And whether that implied, you know, because to me that implied everything, but to him, I don't know. I mean, I know, like, when we had a meeting on deployment and basically sat him down and said everything we had wrong with him, we laid everything out. Joe Arrington specifically said, "You're killing civilians." And Eddie said, "Well, I've been doing this a lot longer than you. I'm a lot better at deciding who's good and bad."
Did he deny he was killing civilians, or would he just try and play it off as if they were all ISIS?
That was his response, was that he knew better. So, yeah, it wasn't there was no denial of, you know, the bloodshed.
Okay. Did anyone specifically ask about, like, the shooting at children? Do you remember any conversations with Eddie where he specifically addressed that, or like shooting at the old man or anything? Or was it just a general statement that I know better? To everyone in general.
No, there was another day, you know, where he sat down and I was looking down the street, and he had found a different lane that was open. It was completely exposed to all of Old Mosul. You had to literally sit in a wide open, you know, bombed out side of a building, just sit down in the middle of it to see what he was seeing down. And he did that. Just that. Like, literally willing to risk getting blown up to go after this crowd of civilians. So had I known that I could have, like, maybe, you know, for one, I didn't want to be in that open door, because, like, you know, we would get shot at every single day here by snipers. So there was a legitimate threat of being killed if you poked your little bean out.
Yeah.
And here Eddie was on this day, plopped his little tripod chair down right in the center, and just, like, goes down and starts cracking off shots. And I think, you know, to corroborate this is that he had told, you know, I don't know where Craig heard this from, that, you know, Eddie had been killing a bunch of women, and Eddie's response to Craig was, "Well, I gave him warning shots first." I have never witnessed Eddie give a warning shot.
How frequently do you think you were in a position where you would have seen him do that? Are we talking daily? Are we talking every couple days?
I could look, because in my journal it was every time I was in the sniper hide. Probably 50 to 70, at least 50% of the time.
Okay.
At the most, you know, 80% of the time.
And you guys are going out every day, right?
Yeah. Yep. Every day, and then alternating weeks.
Okay. So I mean, this is just general statements. You said deployment is 80 days long. 50%, we'll say, just on the low end, that's 40 times you're probably close by with Eddie. So those 40 times, you've never seen him once give a warning shot? If it is 40, I mean, that's a general, that's not exact.
Okay, yeah.
If that's what it is, somewhere around there, you've never once seen?
No, and there was, mind you, hundreds of times where a warning shot was when, like, it needed to happen. Like, Eddie only shot to kill people. And, like, there was, like, a warning shot is a very useful tool.
Yeah.
You know, it absolutely serves its purpose. And, yeah.
You want to follow up on any of these before we keep moving on?
Yeah. one thing I wanted to go back to real quick, just so I have the numbers right. You said that I know it's a guess, but you saw he shot between 20 and 50 people. Is that somewhere around that? And only 2 to 5 of them were what you believe were ISIS.
Yeah, and I would even take that I would take that further and say that, you know, if he only connected with 20, that would be like surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if he connected with 20, then probably only 2 of those were ISIS. There was no way it was 5 ISIS with 20, you know. If it was in fact, 5, or if it was in fact, 80,
Mm-hmm.
then it was like, it very well could have been 2 or 5.
So one of those stats on the high end, the other one's on the high end. If one's on the low end, the other one's on the low end. Like it's a
Yeah, and it's like, and when I hear 20 and maybe 2 guys were bad, it doesn't seem like it does justice for me.
Mm-hmm.
For what for
You think
how many shots he took.
You think you're being conservative in your estimate, just with you said you don't want to overestimate it. I mean, do you think you potentially are being conservative with your estimate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it can be so hard to,
Mm-hmm.
say exact, but I mean, it was to speak in layman's terms, it was like he shot at a shit ton of people.
Mm-hmm. And this 20, if it's on the low end, the 20, is that actually
Connected. The
okay.
20 to 50,
okay.
I'd say, is connected.
Okay.
If you count it shot at,
Yeah.
I don't even know. You'd have to look at his. He shot so much the gun didn't even work. A sniper rifle.
Really?
It seized shut.
Did they have an armor or anything that they would have given that to fix or to replace or?
I think it was turned in at the end of deployment, and I'm sure it was gauged. I know that he was using Joe Arrington's 300 Win Mag for the most of deployment, with a meters. With a yards rangefinder with a meters range card that no one corrected him
Because
on.
nobody wanted to?
Yeah, no one wanted Eddie to have an accurate rifle. I mean, Joe, and yeah, that was like the running joke, was like,
okay, so not being a sniper, how big of a deal it is? I mean, obviously there's clearly the difference, and I mean, we won't hear about the stories of metric and standard measurements, but I mean, from a sniper perspective, someone's 500, 700 yards away, how big a difference is that going to end up making?
Off the top of my head, I want to say that's 3 feet.
Okay.
I could pull up a dope card and tell you the exact answer. It's probably about 3 feet.
I mean, it's considerably throwing off your shot.
It's a miss. Yeah, absolutely a miss.
You think that's the reason why he missed so much?
Yeah, I think it's a good reason.
Okay.
Out of the low number, if it's just 20, do you remember actually? Were those all times that you actually witnessed somebody get shot with or by him, or is that just instances that he did it?
Probably just instances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other specific times you can remember him shooting an innocent person, or someone that wasn't ISIS, or a combatant at all, other than those times that you explained?
So those times, there was another time when there was a woman walking along the river. It was 2 women in all black. They were just walking along the river, and he shot at them, missed them, but took multiple shots at them. So that's the other thing that's pretty significant here. A warning shot happens once, right? Unless you need more. So you shoot one, and there's a reaction, which is people's reaction when you give them a warning shot. They run. So if there's more shots happening when someone's running, it's like you're trying to kill them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
With that lady, there was multiple shots. So that's what makes me think that he wasn't. It's not a warning shot. It's, he's trying to. Because she was running after the first shot.
Were all of these in the same place?
Yes.
Okay. So like same place as in same general location or same city, same
The same two towers?
Like how-
Same two towers.
Okay, so all of them happened, all of these incidents happened from the same two towers?
All of mine, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, I know your notes and everything are going to be able to help, but we want to identify that location as well.
You can probably tell the location from the geotag, because I don't know if these pictures are. I know these were sent to me. These weren't my personal phone. I don't know if you guys have a little ripper machine here to rip the geotags off. This is gonna be a lot easier to do it this way.
Do you mind if we just go hook your phone up? I mean, I know you've got your personal stuff on there. We won't be going through that, but just
Nope, I don't mind.
let's do that real quick. It'll make everything a lot easier and a lot better.
Was there,
Zip lab sheet.
do what?
Zip lab sheet.
Oh, okay. Was there any kind of video coverage on any of these days? Or drone footage or anything like that?
Not organic drone footage, but it's possible that there was ISR. I highly doubt it because I think this would have, sent some things in motion immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I gotcha.
Do you know iPhone, what is it, 6, 7? If you need to answer it,
That's okay.
Does she know you're here?
Yeah.
This, I'm sure you guys have used this stuff to rip phones before, but it's real quick, especially with an iPhone. Let me show this form real quick. Alright, was saying that you, after being advised by me, Special Agent Joseph Warpinski, NCIS conducting investigations in a law of armed conflict investigation, have requested to print a search of your cell phone. It's your iPhone, correct? This is the important part. You've informed the constitutional right to refuse. You don't have to let us do this in the absence of a search warrant. Full understanding of that right, though, you've decided to permit this search anyway. Search can be conducted on today's date by NCIS. This says anything that's found during the search, this says property or papers found can be removed. This is because it's usually think of like if I go search your car, anything I find I would seize. I'm just going to make a copy of your phone and then give you your phone. It's going to look exactly the same when you get it back. So there won't be anything that's actually like seized and taken away from you that you won't have. You make this decision freely and voluntarily, and I haven't made any threats and I haven't made any promises. Good with all that?
Yep.
You want to sign for it right there?
Yep.
Do you have a passcode on your phone?
No, I don't. But these are I don't know if you need specific pictures, but
Yeah. Give me 1 sec.
And is there so the only concern I have is I have pictures of well, it doesn't even matter anymore. It's live. My patent for my idea, but it's on the website.
No,
Everything's live, so
Okay.
it doesn't matter. But June 17th. So this was one of the buildings that we frequently operated out of.
Okay. This is the same spot? This is one of those two towers you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
So these were sent to me also. These weren't organic from my phone.
Okay.
And you may not be able to get geolocation off of that because we've been through, we've all been through the, what's that course? I can't remember the course where they make you like...
Whatever, yeah.
Yep.
Like how to adjust your phone so you're not geotagging yourself and posting it all over the place. And
Yep.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So those are organic. Those should be.
So
June 20th. So this, if anything comes up, this is Carnival. This is the Carnival June 20th.
Okay.
Or where this specific picture was, that was from the Carnival Tower.
Okay.
Which was a place we often frequented, but wasn't the, I guess the two towers.
Okay. So that's nearby?
Yep. It's still probably only 300, 400 meters away.
Okay.
That was typically how it was.
Okay, cool.
And I'm not wearing body armor. Probably get in trouble for that. Oh well.
No one's gonna give a shit with that, man. But Can I go back to the May timeframe? See,
Yep.
are there any photos that might have been taken? Whoops, got too far. Around the time when that other incident happened?
Nope, that's from the roof of our house in Badoosh, and those are the ISIS guys, the Iraqi intelligence guys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go.
Is May the incident?
What's that?
Was May the?
I'm trying to figure it out because it was before. It's either May or June because it's before Miller left for baby leave, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can tell you the exact day as soon as I get my
Yeah.
drone footage. So.
Yeah, that's. Let me go hook this up real quick.
Okay.
Hey Joe,
Yeah.
you want this?
Yeah, sure.
Do you need anything? You want to take another break or hit the head?
I actually might go to the bathroom again. I don't know what more time it is. Seems
Yeah.
10:30.
Or do you have a second?
Oh yeah, sorry. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Go back for 1 second. Sorry. Hate to keep doing this to you. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, my wife was, I told her, I got a call from you yesterday, and she's like, oh, well, they're like, you should erase the pictures that I sent you on deployment. And I was like, yeah.
I won't go through your personal stuff.
I know you guys are professional, but obviously you probably stumble upon stuff like that, and I understand that it's part of the, that it's the nature of the beast. It's going to be ugly no matter what. But I just thought that was funny.
So, a lot of times in our office, just unfortunately in the military, there's a lot of sexual assault cases. So a lot of times we have to look at people's their entire lives, and so we look at phones all the time for those types of cases. So I completely understand the difference between looking at what's relevant versus somebody else's entire life.
Yeah. I don't know. I've actually never, I have ripped a training phone before, but, yeah, I don't know what order it comes up in or whatever, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. My wife.
Yeah. And it definitely won't be in any reports or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's get back into this. Any particular incidents that you remember, any more ones where you saw Eddie actually hit somebody?
Physically, me, because we had the old man, we had the young boy that he missed, we had the woman
that he repeatedly shot at.
Yep. And then you have the scenario that I kind of just barely touched on. There was a whole group of civilians. Once he started shooting, I peeked around the corner, and it was just like a crowd of civilians, like at the water, like bathing.
Yeah.
And he was just shooting into that group.
Did he hit anyone? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
And those are like I said,
that's a lot. I'm not
trying to eyewitness things.
Yeah.
I could there's so many other things that I've heard. I believe Dalton Tolbert can probably corroborate these answers, and that's the other thing that I feel like that just kills me about this whole thing, is that Dalton and TC are screening for Dam Neck right now, and Dam Neck has had its share of investigations recently, and I think it might cost them their spot in green team, just being in an investigation. I don't know if there's any, when you...
they're witnesses. They're 100% witnesses. It's not like it's something that goes negative. It's not like something where they do a background investigation, they're going to show that they're subjects of investigation or anything like that. So I can't say for sure because I don't know how the process works, but I don't anticipate this negatively affecting them. And if I mean, that's always something we can address with command too. So we'll address that issue
Yeah.
with your items.
That's just something that's in the back of my head. But Dalton, Dalton would be able to, corroborate these stories. Friends, I know Josh Friends has a story where he thought, where he saw shots getting fired at a young female, and she got hit in the stomach. I don't know if she ended up getting hit again, but she got knocked over, hit in the stomach, and was like running back. And then, it was kind of the same way as my story was, is that he heard from other people that Eddie was shooting that day, and then Eddie was bragging about killing women that day. So that's how, that was put together.
Okay.
And I mean, you guys are the professionals at this, and we constantly, like, this is a big step, and we, like, from the very beginning, we were like, dude, this could fire off right now and go ballistic, go, to the headquarters of DC, like you guys had just mentioned that it is right now, and they could pull everyone in a room immediately, and it would just be like, everyone would just, there's no.
So everyone's going to get interviewed.
So.
People have been interviewed already. More people are going to be interviewed in the future. I can't tell you what you can and can't say. I would encourage you not to say anything, not to tell anyone you've been interviewed.
Yeah.
You're not required to tell anyone. But I don't want to do that massive surge, and I want to get this investigation to a solid point before it becomes so wide open that it's going on.
Yeah.
And you're right. So, I mean, something you say that this could go ballistic. Earlier, you mentioned that first incident with the person who was stabbed in the neck. You guys had that meeting that night, and you said somebody brought up the term war crimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your mind, is what happened that day and what happened with all these other incidents war crimes?
Yes.
Is there any doubt in your mind that these are war crimes?
No.
Has anyone ever actually, to your knowledge, you or anyone else brought this up to Eddie as you're committing war crimes?
In that specific verbiage, no.
Okay.
But you're killing civilians.
Okay. No, that's fine.
I mean, I guess that is a war crime.
Yeah. So people specifically said, Eddie, you're killing civilians?
Yeah.
Was that you or was that somebody else?
I know Joe Arrington specifically said you're killing civilians.
Was that when you were present?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
No, don't worry.
Because that would be important,
Yeah. No, but I mean that's good because now questions ask him. And what did you specifically ask Eddie about this?
Yeah.
I don't think we've actually done this. This is kind of silly. We keep referring to him as Eddie. What's his full name?
Edward.
Edward what?
Edward Gallagher.
Okay. What's his rank?
Chief Petty Officer.
I know. Again, silly. We all are talking about the same person, but we just want to get that directly from you. Who in command did you particularly report this to? Not like Miller or any other guys. Who did you specifically ever address this with? Anyone?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the pushing up chain of command was handled by, you already mentioned Dalton, right?
Yeah.
Who else? Anyone else?
I know that the sector. Well, no. I mean, we told Tom McNeil. Yeah.
Who's we?
All of us at the Sector 7 house.
Yeah. You were part of that conversation where you told Tom, like, look, this is happening, Eddie's killing civilians?
It was like, it was almost that it was like so well known and such common knowledge that it was never like, hey Tom, we need to have a talk. It was just like, it came up all the time, like Eddie killed civilians, and that was common knowledge.
Okay. Do you know if Miller pushed this up to anyone? Are you aware of like times he pushed this to Jake or anybody else?
When we had the meeting on deployment.
Okay.
When we brought, Eddie and Jake in for a meeting and, you know, laid it all out.
Okay. Do you know of any times it was addressed with anybody higher than Jake? Whether Jake took it up or somebody else took it around Jake?
I know that Craig was speaking to multiple people. I don't have like exact specifics. I know that he was like, you know, I felt bad for him because it was like falling on his shoulders, and he, you know, he was the one who was taking it up.
Okay. Any other specific incidents worth mentioning? I mean, obviously there's a whole lot of different things going on. You've mentioned a ton already. But
So that's kind of what I got as far as, you know, eyewitness. And maybe if this can bring anything full circle and offer any sort of consolation for people who might be facing big trouble but weren't necessarily Eddie, namely Jake. So Eddie was my first phase proctor. So he's like the one, he's like your voice to the instructors. He's the first guy you see in the SEAL community, right?
Okay.
And that's where he told a story where he didn't take the shot on the lady, or on the guy carrying the kid. Jake was my OSC for Buds.
Okay.
So this whole time he has just absolutely idolized Eddie. From the very beginning, Eddie has been his, like, you know, the biggest role model in his life. Like, I don't know, in his life, I shouldn't say that. Just a huge role model in work for professional things. And it's just like, I don't really know where I'm going with this other than, you know, everyone feels that Jake was gonna, I don't know if that even says anything. Everyone feels that Jake was, you know, under Eddie's thumb. Eddie constantly said things like, you know, the officers are under control of the enlisted man. They're there to only file the paperwork, do the paperwork. And honestly, that was kind of the culture of the platoon, was that, you know, Eddie had the all say.
So Eddie was in your, I mean, what you're saying is basically Eddie was running the show.
Yeah.
Do you think Jake was actively covering for him? Afraid to turn him in? I mean, what do you think it was? Or just because he idolized him, that he didn't want to, that he turned a blind eye? I mean, your opinion, what do you think his reasoning was?
To this day, you know, I've thought this over. Like, this is, you know, basically what I ruminate on, and it's like I can't figure out why Jake would, in a sense, protect Eddie by not just, he was the one who had the power to be like, I'll stop. I don't know what was behind there, but yeah, I mean, we laid, time and time again, we laid it out.
Okay.
And it was actually said that, so during this whole thing, we had like this meeting in the Shaycon house. We were like up all night stressing about this. We filmed the whole thing. I don't know where that footage is or if it's gone. Myself, well, all of us that were there, myself, Dalton, Craig, I think.
What was your reason for filming it?
Because we were worried that Eddie was going to try and kill us.
Okay.
And Craig had a gun on him. We were worried that when we brought this all up, Eddie was going to, in that moment, realize that it had gotten too far and he was going to kill us. Or attempt to kill one of us.
Okay, so which meeting is this exactly?
In Shaycon.
Okay.
It was on deployment.
Okay, and that's when you guys brought Eddie in?
Yeah, Eddie and Jake.
And so that's when you guys confronted him with what was going on?
Yeah.
And is this the same conversation where he had said, I've been doing this a lot longer than you guys have.
Yep, and like I said, so that too, so immediately, so to give some context to this whole thing, Eddie had gone through Eddie was sensing that there was like people trying to, go around him and undermine him. And so he went through Tom McNeil's phone to, see where the core of the problem was. And Joe Arrington had texted him and said, hey, please tell me that you're not going to do some operation tomorrow. I think it was the raid operation. Please tell me you're not the GFC that allowed this to happen. And so Eddie read that and was furious that Joe was undermining Eddie. And so he was threatening to kick Joe out of the platoon and send him somewhere else for the rest of the deployment. That's when we were like, no, you're not going to send Joe away. We need like every person on our side, every senior E6 on our side that we can get for veracity, for, to have some rank behind this. We need him. So this is our stand. And that's when we made the big stand, and they were like, we're taking Joe away from the platoon. And we're like, we called him, we said, no, you're not. And they were like, Eddie got all pissed off and hung up the phone on us. And we called back Jake, and, he tried to mitigate a little bit. Anyways, they ended up coming to us to have this meeting. And right off the bat, like, we had a camera hidden to film this whole thing in case anything went down. Craig had a gun, and Eddie pulled Joe aside immediately and said, we're talking in private, and pulled him into the talk. At which point, the rest of us talked to Jake for probably 45 minutes, and this is another time that we laid everything out,
So, if your best guess, who has that video footage? Do you think it still exists?
I don't know whose GoPro it was, and I don't know if I've never saw it again reproduced. I have no idea.
Okay. You got all the names of people that were there?
At that meeting?
Yeah.
No.
Let's go through that. Just, Craig was there.
Mm-hmm.
Joe was there, but he got pulled out.
Yep. Christopher Shoemake.
Hold on one sec.
It's all good.
Okay. So, who all was there? Craig?
Yep. Craig, Dalton.
Okay.
Joe got pulled aside.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Shoemake.
Okay.
I believe TC was there. I'm not 100% on that. Corey Pullman was there.
Corey Pullman?
Yep.
There are two Corys?
Yep, Corey Scott is the other one.
Okay, that's what I thought you said earlier.
Tom McNeil, Jake, and Eddie. And myself.
You know what, let's just go through the names right now.
Yep.
So, we talked about a lot of these, and obviously we know a couple of them, but the same reason I asked you to identify who Eddie was. Let's go through and identify these guys by their full names.
Okay.
He's got a list of them, so I can just kind of read them off.
Can you tell me, like, once you tell me their last name, can you kind of give me an idea of what their position is too, like what they do?
Yeah.
Okay. Or if you know rank or, whatever.
Mhm.
AJ?
AOS, AJ Hansen.
Let me go check on my phone.
Okay. You know his first name? Or is it just AJ?
I think it actually might be Alan.
Okay. What's he do?
He's the AOIC.
Okay.
Next.
Josh Graffam. Is it Graffam?
Josh Graffam. Yep. He was a on deployment new guy. A-dub gunner, and he's currently in a platoon at Team 7.
Okay. Jake?
Portier.
How do you spell? Do you know how to spell it?
Portier, I believe.
Okay.
OIC.
Okay. Craig?
Craig Miller.
Okay.
LPO.
Okay. Dalton?
Dalton Tolbert.
Okay.
sniper, and then was acting LPO when Craig was gone on baby leave.
Okay. TC?
I believe it's Terrence Byrne. And I'm not 100% on the spelling, I believe it's Byrne.
Okay. Alright, let's see, dude.
Medic.
Okay. Josh Franz?
Josh Friends, sniper. Yep.
Okay. Tom?
Tom McNeil is a AOIC.
Okay. So all the names at the meeting, those are all the same people, like Craig is Craig Miller, Dalton is Dalton Tolbert, Joe is Joe...
Arrington.
Okay, Joe Arrington, I don't think that yet. Joe Arrington, what's he?
He is a JTAC.
Okay. Chris Shoemake?
Yep, he's a sniper, and he was the LPO of Sector 8.
Corey Pullman?
Yep.
What's he do?
Dog handler.
And Jake, you already gave me him, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Alright, yeah, I think that's it. Back to the names, do you remember any of the translators' names?
Hama was one of them.
Do you know how to spell that?
I just know his first name, Hama.
Okay.
We had Siobhan, Shivan.
Okay.
He's an American citizen.
Okay.
We had, I'm trying to, so those guys at the house, those translators, constantly, it was like, they, it wasn't like we could have conversations always that were like in a room like this. Like, we were we were living there, and I know for a fact that they oftentimes were like, we even leave the room like, holy crap, I don't even want to, they're probably going to get investigated. And I mean, they were around for a lot of discussion.
Okay.
And that's probably a hit on our part.
Okay. Do you know, were they privy to any of the shootings or anything from Eddie?
As far as eyewitness, those guys know. Word of mouth, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Alright. Do you know if any of them were present at any of the times? Like the first incident with the kid they stabbed? Do you know if any of them were there?
I think the only interpreter that day was the long-haired, gray-haired guy.
Okay. Don't remember his name?
Don't know his name, yeah.
Okay.
He wasn't one of our regulars.
Okay. Yeah. Alright, that's it.
You good? Alright, man. Any other significant incidents you want to bring up? There's a good chance at some point in the future we're probably going to have to sit down again, because especially once we get these things that we've talked about, we might want to go through it. You've got my cell phone number too, so at any point you can reach out to me if you remember something else as well.
Okay.
When you were supposed to be in training for a couple days, are you going back to work soon?
Yes and no. I'm at SEAL Team 7, but it's Troop 4, and I pretty much don't have to go in.
Okay. So. I'm just trying to get an idea of when you'd be able to get those things.
I mean, I'm off today. I can go home and grab them today if you guys aren't. If that makes it easier for you.
Yeah, if you could just because, I mean, we're,
Understand that time is probably of the essence here.
yeah. But the thing is as well, we're trying to keep everything as quiet as possible for as long as possible, and
Yeah.
you know that's not always the easiest. As it goes on for longer and longer. So yeah, whenever you can get them, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
Good.
they're at home or at work? You're
At home.
okay.
Yep.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't mind, just if you could, I mean, we can run them back here. You can give me a call. I can meet you someplace even, because I got to run out to Coronado to go pick up a few things right now. Anyway. Trying to think anything else. You got any questions? We'll talk.
Do you want me to be around in case you're not here?
No. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Anything else? Let's start with this. Anything else case related, real quick? Any more incidents to remember? And don't worry, man. If you remember more, you can call me. We can get you
Yeah.
back in here. We can do that again.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that was that's kind of what I had off the top of my head.
Well, let's go on out over here, and we'll get you out of here for the day.
Okay.
Come on.